What's going on, everybody? You hear the music, you know what time it is. I am KODX Factor, and I am here again in the studio, in the offices of the Game Out Lounge, and I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. We greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much for tuning in. We have a really big show lined up. Well, I mean, won't say big show. It's more of like the same kind of competitive banter back and forth. So, I mean, I will bring up a couple of topics that we will get into again here. So, but we're going to have a couple of big topics to talk about, one of which being what Microsoft had unveiled at Gamescom with their new Xbox All Access. We're going to kind of go over that a little bit and look at some of the benefits and some of the doubts of it, but we are going to look at that. The GameStop conference is going on as we speak, so all the publishers and developers are there at the GameStop conference. So there's a lot going on there. I don't have so much to share from that department, but from Gamescom, since it is closed up shop. And also, I wanted to take a moment to give our thoughts and our prayers and our condolences to the lives lost in the tragedy that happened in Jacksonville, Florida. By now, I'm sure you probably have already heard. That's going to be one of the topics that we talk about today as well. About the shooting that had occurred at a Madden tournament, or Madden qualifying tournament in Jacksonville, Florida, where about nine people or so had been injured, two of which have lost their lives at the event, and it was broadcast live on Twitch. And if you were one of the ones that happened to see that, you know, our thoughts are with everybody involved, all those that were there at the event, their families, the victims, you know, and their families. We truly, you know, sympathize, and our thoughts and our prayers go out to everybody involved. And Twitch and EA and a lot of the other game developers had all kind of come together. A lot of gamers in the community had come together, much like we are in a sense, you know, to push the collective groups of gamers that we consider ourselves a part of. Esports is another one, that video games are meant to bring people together. And we'll talk about it here in just a few minutes. We'll kind of go into a little bit more detail about it, but you know, games are meant to bring people together, to have fun, and to have a tragedy like this happen. It does paint a little bit of a black eye, but I don't want to paint it in the way that some media is portraying it. We're going to look at it a bit differently. But again, our thoughts and prayers and condolences are out to all the families affected by the tragedy that happened in Florida. Such a horrific event that had taken place. So, but we're going to kick this show off. We're actually recording a little bit earlier this week. It'll go up around this normal scheduled time. So if you're wondering if there's certain stories that break later in the week, we're actually recording this early in the week because we're kind of gearing up for next week, where we have a lot going on. We'll actually be out of the office by next weekend. We'll have a show next week. But we will not have anything for the following week, but we'll kind of go into that a little bit next week. We're not going to touch on that much today. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Let's kind of kick things off here. And we're going to kick things off on a little bit more of a down note. We kind of touched on it a little bit at the beginning. And I kind of wanted to kind of start the show off here because I figured this is really worth talking about, worth mentioning to anybody out there that's listening that's part of the gaming community, and anybody who may be listening that's not part of the gaming community, that only goes by what is hearsay or what people talk about or what media portrays in certain things and certain events. Kind of wanted to talk to everybody, but if you're not aware of what had transpired, there was on August 26th, which was this past Sunday, 2 days ago, there was a shooting at an EA Madden Classic qualifying event, a tournament, a Madden 19 tournament, where I'm not going to mention the shooter's name because I don't think he deserves that type of notoriety for it. So he will be named nameless. But the victims that had lost their lives in the event, Mr. Taylor Robertson and Mr. Elijah Clayton, those were the two competitors that had lost their lives at the event. One of them was, if you watched the live stream, was one of the ones that you saw on the live stream, and unfortunately, you got a quick glance to see the laser pointer from his gun being brought onto his chest, and that's where the gunshot started to go off. I'm not going to go into detail about the event. I'm not going to go over I'm not going to play any of the audio. I'm not going to play the video from what had transpired at that event. I think that's already been done enough. I don't think it needs to be brought to fruition again. I don't think we're much like the same reason why we're not going to mention the shooter's name or anything about him at this point. Not so much that we just don't know anything much about him, but just the fact that I don't think he deserves the notoriety. All we will say is that he was a competitor at the event. He did lose. Apparently, he lost twice in that tournament. Both of the guys that beat him in that tournament are still alive. They went through unscathed. Well, I won't say unscathed, but they went through. They still had their lives. They were conducting interviews on site after the shooting had occurred. So the reason for the shooting and why those two particular people had lost their lives, why the one in particular had lost his life, we do not know at this point. It's still kind of up in the air, but there's things circulating about the shooter, that he had mental illnesses, there was problems going on, and it just kind of came to a head at this Madden tournament. But it does spark a little bit of curiosity as to security and how much is looked at events like this. Now, look, I'm just like you guys in a lot of sense, in a lot of instances, that this is a gaming community. This is a gaming tournament. It's meant to bring people together and compete on friendly terms. It's not meant to get violent in any way. Now, look, I know there is trash talking in tournaments and events. I've been there. I've done that myself. But it's all done out of just pure fun. I mean, it's not done out of being hateful or anything like that. We're not there to hate anybody for whatever reason. That's not the sense of it. And majority of us here in the gaming community, now I know the gaming community can be a bit harsh, especially when you talk about the online community. It can be extremely harsh. I have to monitor what my son does online with the Xbox and his Switch and stuff like that, just because I know firsthand how the community can be, especially with kids. And my kids growing up in the industry, I'm in the industry. My kids are growing up in the industry. I know at some point my son or daughter is going to be interested in going to a tournament and competing. There's a couple games that they play very often. There's a couple games that they are very, very good at. And the longer it goes on, the I can see them competing in tournaments for it. And I don't want anybody, and me as a parent shouldn't feel nervous about sending or taking our kids to a video game tournament because of something like this. In all honesty, when it comes to shootings and stuff like that, the world is full of idiots. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. The world is full of idiots, and the world is full of hateful people, and full of people that are not being looked at or looked after like they should be. Now, the reason why I say this is because I know this guy, the shooter, had a history of mental illness. If he did. He sure seemed to portray it. And what people are talking about on the news media and the other outlets as well is that this guy had a history of it. If somebody family member, has a history of mental illness, is that not somebody that you want to try to keep an eye on and stay in constant communication with, just so you have the good sense that, look, we're watching over him, we're doing what we can. where we have him, we're constantly in communication with him. So that way you get a feel of how his personality is starting to develop, especially when he gets into an older age. This shooter was in his 20s. Now, I'm not going to go solely start blaming guns. I'm not going to go blame anything else for that matter, because this is going to bring up a big talking point for politics. It's going to bring the gun issues back into play. Yeah, and then it needs to be. I'm not going to sit here on a podcast. I'm going to sit here and talk to you guys and start making claims, or not making claims, but going over my personal views on the matters. That's not what I'm here for, especially when it comes to political matters. This is a video game show. This is a video game podcast. That's what we're talking about. And it just so happened that, unfortunately, that this type of event had occurred at a video game tournament. So I'm not going to turn this into a political rant. There's no sense for it. If people are going to start bringing up guns as it being an issue, that's a political rant. I'm not doing that. That's not what I'm here for. My Twitter account's not here for that. I'm not here in the Game Out Lounge Media Network for that. But I will say this, that security kind of needs to be a little bit tighter when it comes to events like this. Now, I've been to a couple of tournaments. I've been to a couple of pro events where the security is not as tight. Now, if you go to a big arena type event, sponsored by the ESL and stuff like that, security can be pretty on point. And a lot of events that go through stuff like that, events are going to be, security is kind of on point. But when you go to other events like, some of the local tournaments, some local tournaments that are sponsored by either EA or whatever the game publisher is, if it's sponsored by ESL or Twitch or something like that, there kind of needs to be some security around that type of event. If it's like a local event that's hosted by whatever business, it's that business's responsibility to kind of get security tight, because in this day and age, nobody knows. Who knows what could possibly transpire at that point? In this day and age, anything could just happen nowadays. So you got to be extra cautious when you go to places like this now. And it could be anywhere. We've seen movie theaters, church even. It seems like now security's got to be almost tightened up for anywhere that you possibly go. And now gaming tournaments are now tied within that realm. Security's got to be a bit tighter at these events. Now, other companies have gone off and said that they're going to be, making security tighter at their events now. PAX security is apparently going to be really, really tight. E3 security is going to get even tighter now. Gamescom security is going to get even tighter. All of these game conventions, security is going to start to get really, really tight now because of the events that had transpired on the 26th. EA has already canceled the remaining Madden Classic qualifiers after the shooting had occurred. So they had issued a statement earlier today, and I'll read the statement here to you now. Is first and foremost, it is an unthinkable tragedy that Taylor Robertson and Elijah Clayton, two of our top Madden competitors, lost their lives in this way. They were respected, positive, and skilled competitors, and the players and personalities at the heart of our community. Their love of competition was evident through their participation in our events, over the past few years. We are committed to supporting Taylor and Elijah's families through this difficult time, and we send our deepest sympathies to their loved ones, to those injured yesterday, and anyone else affected. The event was a qualifying tournament for the Madden Classic, our first Madden EA major competition of this season. While these qualifying events are operated independently by partners, we work with them to ensure competitive integrity and to gather feedback from players. We have made the decision to cancel our 3 remaining Madden Classic qualifying events while we run a comprehensive review of our safety protocols for competitors and spectators. We will work with our partners and our internal teams to establish a consistent level of security at all of our competitive gaming events. That's a statement coming straight from EA. So now there's going to be that extra the heightened sense of security now at all these events. So that's going to kind of throw a whole limbo into the Madden Classic event that EA was putting on. Which at this point now, I'm sure you're not going to have very many competitors as you would have had initially anyhow. But I mean, it leads to, it's going to start leading to more security at everything we do. Even in the gaming industry, not just elsewhere, but like essentially anywhere you go, there's going to be a more heightened sense of security now because of stuff like this. It's sad. And like I said, our condolences go out to the families and all those affected. Look, the gaming community is meant to bring people together. Express love and show joy in things that we love. No matter what game you're into, no matter what game you like, no matter what franchise or type of game you're into, it shouldn't matter. It should not get to this point to where if you lose at a competitive battle or anything like that, that you get so outraged or so frustrated that you feel you have to take a life and then take your own life. If you're mentally unfit to begin with, I don't think you should be playing competitively at all. You know, just in all honesty, depending on the circumstances, because some circumstances are different. Some people look at video games as an escape, which is great because, you know, it helps ease you back. It helps ease you. Then there's others that have a short temper, or the slightest little thing can set them off. Video game tournaments are not the place for you. Just being frankly honest. Because in tournaments, there's a winner, there's a loser. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. You're going to create friends, and you're going to have enemies. The gaming community is not about that. We don't need that type of nonsense in our tournaments, in our community whatsoever. There's no place for it. I'm just being blatantly honest here. I don't think there's a place for that type of behavior in anything that we do, not just in tournaments, not just in the gaming community. I mean, let's take online, for example, online play. There's no room for the hate remarks and the hate speech, especially some of the crap that I've heard online before. There's no room for that. It's just spirit-friendly competition. That's what it always should be. That's what the gaming community, and the gaming community is so strong and is so quick, and it will come together. It always does. In any sense of tragedies, especially if it's something that takes place within that community that we all reside in, the gaming community will come together, and it always does. We're always there for each other. We're always going to be there for each other. We're always going to reach out, always lend helping hands. Strong relationships are built from this industry, and it's always going to continue to be that way. We just cannot forget that. And sometimes I think there are those that forget that. We cannot forget that. Always stay strong, always stay united. We're all part of the gaming community. The video games are meant to bring people together and have fun. Use it for a relaxer, just something to kind of take your mind off other things. That's what video games, at least that's what they do for me. And there's some out there that their only forms of friendship are with those that they develop on games. We shouldn't have to feel that if we go to a convention or a tournament, that something bad can happen like that. So, I mean, I applaud the extra heightened sense of security. It's bad and sad that it's gotten to this point to where we gotta have this now. It's a bad thing. It's a bad black eye. Don't let the media perceive as video games have created this or video games are responsible for this. Don't let that be the narrative. That's not. It has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. This was just a sick individual who lost at a friendly competition game And I don't know what might have set him off. We don't know yet, so I'm not going to speculate on that. But just keep it that way. It's a friendly atmosphere. It's friendly competition. We make friends here, and everybody just enjoy the competition. That's all I can say. And the other news story I wanted to get to today, just to kind of close the show out, Gamescom has finally wrapped. Xbox has finally revealed, because we all talked about the rumors earlier that they're going to be announcing hardware, and then came the retractor to where it was going to be existing SKUs with bundles. Oh, we sure got plenty of bundles. There are so many bundles out there to talk about. I'm not going to talk about all the bundles. Any big game that's coming out, there's a bundle. I'll just put it that way. There's plenty of bundles for you to choose from. If you don't already have an Xbox One X, the bundles that are out there are worthy of a purchase. I mean, Fallout is the one that comes to mind. Battlefield, and I'll say that Battlefield system looks pretty. It has a specific color scheme to kind of go with the Battlefield name, and looks pretty. I was kind of hoping they would have something similar to that with Fallout 76, but they don't. It's just the generic standard color of the Xbox One X. But there are lots and lots of bundles for you to choose from. Okay? The big one that came out that they announced was the Xbox All Access. Now, the All Access works like this. Think of it more of like a cell phone plan, where you pay for the plan, you're on contract for 2 years, you pay for the service, and then you pay for the hardware. It's going to function very much the same exact way. It's payment installments. So you have two choices. You can do the Xbox One X, or you can do the Xbox One Slim. I don't have the exact prices in front of me, but the Xbox One X is supposed to run you around $35 to $36 a month. I may be off $1 or $2. And the Xbox Slim is around $25 to $27 a month, give or take a few. Now, it's not just the hardware that you're committing to. It's the hardware you're committing to, as well as 2 years of Xbox Live Gold and 2 years of the Xbox Game Pass. Now, in all honesty, if you don't have the funds to go out and purchase any of these at pure face value, these installment plans are actually a really, really good deal. Especially if you just get a Slim. If you get a Slim model, that you're actually going to save you about $120-something if you do it this way. If you buy the Xbox One X version, it's going to save you roughly about $20, give or take a few dollars. So in both ends, it's going to save you money if you do it this way. But here are some of the underlining terms of doing it this way. It's only available through the Xbox One store, or the Xbox One store. It's only available through the Microsoft store. And they will run a credit check before they choose the plans for you. Now, it could be higher, it could be lower, who knows? But the prices that were given were for qualified orders, so you have to qualify for them. So you qualify for them, then they'll give them to you. But like I said, they do run a credit check, because it's not going to be one of those things where you're going to pay the first month, or maybe even the second month installment fee, and then keep your Xbox One and then not pay anything else additional. They're going to tie it to your credit, so that way you can't just get away with it and have it not affect you. So obviously there's going to be some sort of a credit check to even apply for something like this. But if you look at it for what it is at value, you do save going both ways. The Xbox One S is obviously going to save you the most, over $100-something. And you get the system, 2 years of Xbox Live, and 2 years of Game Pass is a really, really strong value. And that's not even including the value for the games that you're going to get from the Xbox One Pass or the games you get for free just for being an Xbox Live Gold member. So that's not even taking that into consideration. It's just taking the base hardware with the base value for the subscriptions and the Game Passes. So essentially it's locking you into a 2-year plan for the Xbox Live Gold and Xbox Live Game Pass. Now this is smart on Microsoft's end for 2 reasons. One, it's going to get more Xboxes out there to the general public. If you don't already have an Xbox and you're looking at doing one and not spending a whole lot of money, no real huge amount of value up front, this is going to be probably the best way to do it. Honestly, this is the best way you're going to go about doing that. Now, the other way this is good for Microsoft is, one, it's going to increase their Xbox Live numbers and their Game Pass subscription numbers because it's locking you in. It's locking you in, and it's locking you in for 2 years. So they get to have these values going in their direction in a positive way for 2 straight years. So this is going to help their general growth in both of those departments, not to mention console sales. And it's going to be interesting to find out once this launches, which I'm heard is at the very, very 1st of September. Once this launches, I'm very curious to find out through NPD numbers how well this system worked, at least in the first couple months. And it's a good thing they're bringing it out now when it's close to Christmas time, because then they can get the Christmas sales in there as well. And I'm curious as to how well this is going to do throughout the holidays. If this does extremely well during the holidays, I would not be surprised to see other platforms kind of follow suit in a similar fashion. It's almost like a no-brainer. You're getting 3 numbers counted for with 1 sale. Your hardware sales have gone up, your Xbox Live Gold subscription has just gone up, and your Game Pass subscribers have just gone up. All 3 categories, which they follow very, very intently, in 1 sale. Now I'm curious as to how many of those are actually going to use this program, how many don't, and how well this is going to do over the holidays. From what I'm gathering, this is just kind of like a test phase. They're going to run it for the holidays to see how it does, and then it's going to go away. I'm sure if it does extremely well and exceeds all expectations, they're probably going to keep this on the table. But for right now, this is something that they're only going to be running for a very limited time. So if this is something you're interested in or thinking about doing, you want to start thinking about doing that now. Especially if you're thinking about getting an Xbox for somebody for Christmas. This is probably a great way to do that. Because 1, you're getting them a system, you're getting them 2 years of Xbox Live and 2 years of Game Pass. So when they open that game or that system up on Christmas, they can go ahead and start downloading games and playing right off the bat. So you don't even have to worry about buying games for them right out the gate, unless there's specific games that they're asking for. Especially like those big holiday hits that are going to be coming with Battlefield, Call of Duty, Fallout. These games are coming out this fall. I'm sure if they're going to be getting an Xbox for Christmas, those are going to be the games that they want to play. And then you have the extra value of the Game Pass on top of that, so they can select from a variety of games already on the Game Pass. And some of those games are going to be available for Game Pass on day 1, like the new Forza. If you get the Game Pass edition, Forza is going to be on Game Pass day 1, so you don't have to buy it. So you have to look at it for that way too. I think even Tomb Raider is available on day 1. I'm not 100% sure on that, so please don't quote me on that. But I thought I heard somewhere where that was going to be available on day 1. I could be wrong. But it's actually a really, really good value just looking at it. And if you're part of that program, you're actually going to save a little bit of money if you do the X, a lot of money if you do the Slim. So if you have somebody in mind that's looking for an Xbox for Christmas, this is probably the best program to do it in. And I'm sure you're going to be limited probably on the amount of systems that you can probably do. I'm sure it's probably going to be like 1 per customer or something like that. But You know, that's something you had to talk to the Microsoft Store about because it's only available through them. But that's going to do it for us here on this show. I greatly, greatly appreciate everybody tuning in and listening and being a part of the conversation. If you would like to let me know what your thoughts and opinions are of the show, or there's questions you want me to talk about or answer during the show, please submit them either through our website, which is the www.GameNightLounge.wordpress.com. You can submit them to us on our Twitter accounts. Our Twitter handle is @GameNightLounge. Or you can do it. You can send them directly to me on Twitter, which my Twitter handle is KODXFactor. You can make sure you follow us on our YouTube channel. Our channel is the Game Night Lounge. You can submit your comments through there as well. And we are also on all of your podcast listening programs. So we're on Podbean, we're on TuneIn, we're also on the Apple iTunes Store as well as Google Play. So make sure you give us a subscription there and follow us there. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, my name is KODX Factor. This is The Jump Off. We are part of the Game Night Lounge Media Network. And all the guests that appear on this show and future shows are part of the Game Night Lounge Media Network as well. Thank you guys so much for listening. And until next week, everybody, game on.